What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So wanted to give a quick kind of reaction and my thought process behind this Henry Cejudo Song Yadong. It's the way that you never want to see a high-level fight in, especially with a former champ like Henry Cejudo, 38 years old, still trying to hang on to the very top of the division, still trying to hang on to that number 7 spot that he had, ranked in the top 10 after being retired for 3 years and coming back facing champion Aljamain Sterling, immediately losing a close split decision. I mean, he was close to regaining that title there, right? And then, of course, he lost unanimous decision to the now champion Merab Dvalishvili. Who hasn't? Who hasn't? Pretty much everyone has, especially within the last few years since Merab has been on his epic run. Now, last night, Song Yadong, what did we see? We saw another perfect example as to why something needs to be done about these gloves. They tried to make some sort of change with the gloves recently. Several of the fighters spoke out against it, saying that because it forces their fingers downward like this, it affects a grappler's ability to be able to gain wrist control, to grab, clinch their opponent, that sort of thing, which you can understand that. You can understand that. It all makes sense. But what makes me mad is it's not only the fighters, but the fans, bro. The fans are the ones that are getting kicked in the teeth over this. These guys come, pay, especially the people that showed, fair enough. I mean, I pay my ESPN subscription. This fight for me was free with my ESPN subscription. I pay for my ESPN basically so I can watch the UFC stuff. I don't really watch anything else that comes with the ESPN subscription except for the UFC and then the pay-per-views, right? So this, for me, in that sense, was free, except that I pay my ESPN subscription. But watching it from home, frustrating enough. You stay up late, you fight your eyes starting to get heavy. I'm fighting against that, drinking coffee at 10 to 11 o'clock at night, trying to stay up to watch this fight between Henry Cejudo, Song Yadong. People travel there. This was in Seattle, Washington. People travel from other areas. They've got hotel stay. They're going there. They're eating out at places, going to the bars, buying drinks, promotional materials, T-shirts of the fighters of the UFC fight night. Just all of it. All of the money making that goes with having a huge UFC event in a city, right? Only to have it abruptly end after 3 rounds, all because of an inadvertent eye poke. Now, Henry Cejudo, when he first was poked, he was very adamant, and you could hear him vocalizing to Jason Herzog, take a point, and that's one of those things where, Henry Cejudo, he lost the fight. He was losing the fight. To be fair, he did better than I thought he was going to be able to do, to be honest with you, because I said, prior to the fight that if he wasn't able to take it to the ground, he was kind of going to be in trouble. He was going to be a sitting duck. He was losing on points, and according to the strike count, he was losing. But to be fair to the 38-year-old Henry Cejudo, he was still having his moments. He looked okay. He busted up Song Yadong's nose, cut him up a little bit. I mean, you can tell that Henry Cejudo was having his moments in that fight. So I understand where his grievances are, because now Henry Cejudo is coming out in the aftermath and saying, I didn't lose that fight. This better be, he didn't win. I didn't lose. There better be a rematch, which Song Yadong agreed to the rematch immediately before even leaving the octagon, saying that that's what should happen, okay, because, it was stopped abruptly due to a foul that he committed. It was a clear foul. It was a clear eye poke. Henry was saying that he wanted to run that back. Where it gets dicey is apparently Dana, in the post-fight press conference, said that it wasn't likely that they would run this back. Imagine how that feels to Henry Cejudo. I mean, he's 38 years old, approaching 40. If he's going to have any more chance or any chance to run at the title at this point and to be one of the top guys, he's going to have to beat the top guys. So far, since back in the UFC, Henry's 0-2. This here against Song Yadong makes the first time in ages that Henry Cejudo is on a 3-fight skid. Okay? But he doesn't want to call it a 3-fight skid because, according to him, he didn't lose. Okay? So, back to what I was saying a minute ago, Henry was being very vocal with Jason Herzog. Take a point, because Song Yadong had been warned multiple times about fouling. One of them was a low blow to the cup. He also had warned him about his fingers, being in this sort of position here prior to the actual foul and the eye poke taking place. Okay? And listen, I see where Henry's coming from there. And this is one of those things where the UFC is going to have to find a way to crack down on this, man, because the fighters are getting fucked and the fans are getting fucked by two things. One thing is the fact that they can't figure out a resolution to the whole glove issue and the whole exposed finger issue. People are getting their fucking eyes poked out right and left. I mean, Chris Weidman, people literally started referring to him as Chris Eidman because he poked his opponent in the eye so many times in his fight recently, right? And then there's guys that are doing this over and over and over and over and over only to just take warnings and a point never get taken away. At some point, you got the original glove problem, which means the foul is still happening, okay? The eye pokes are still happening, right? They've not figured out a way to fix that, okay? But then on top of it, there's no consequence for the fighter. I mean, what's the consequence? You get warned on national television? You get warned in front of 20,000 people in the arena? What is that your consequence? Oh, shame on you. The whole world gets to see you get warned by the referee. They don't give a shit about that. The fighter doesn't give a shit about that. If it doesn't affect the outcome of the fight, if it doesn't affect whether they win or lose the contest, they could care less if they get warned 50 times about some infraction, right? So the UFC is going to have to figure out a way to draw this thing in and reel this thing in and tighten the leash on this. One, they're going to have to do something about the gloves because the fans and the fighters keep getting fucked out of rounds of good action, rounds that they paid to see, that they expected and anticipated to see. Okay, this is happening on not just fight nights, but pay-per-view events. I mean, I've lost count at this point. I'm not going to, you've seen them too. So there's no point for me to, go down the list and, remember this fight that happened. Oh, remember this fight ended early. Oh, remember this fight, the Bilal Muhammad, Leon Edwards fight. There's so many examples. There's no point in even going there with a list of it at this point. But you're going to have to figure out a way of, one, keeping the eye pokes from happening, and two, actually doing something as a consequence to the fighter when the eye pokes happen. The warning, especially the consistent over and over sort of warning, it's not working, dude. It's not working. And if you started fining these guys, I don't know, $5,000 off of your purse and $5,000, the $5,000 that comes off of your purse when you commit the eye poke goes to your opponent. Or you get a point deducted. And then obviously a whole point being deducted from your total number of points throughout the fighter in the fight could make a huge difference, especially in a somewhat close fight like this one. I see where Henry is upset. This was somewhat a close fight. Now listen, Song Yadong was winning. He was clearly, the winner at the time that the fight was stopped. But it's unfortunate Because if Henry Cejudo had not fought the rest of the round 3, and I don't think he knew this at the time or thought about this at the time, which that's another, you know, unfortunate, misstep here. And that's another thing that the fighters don't fully all the time understand the rules, because what we're learning now is that the reason it went to the judges' scorecards the way it did at the end of the 3rd round is because Henry Cejudo decided, after he took his whole 5-minute break, to continue fighting and finish out the 3rd round. Now we're looking at it and understanding and learning that if he had not done that, and if during the 5-minute break, if he would have said, "Oh, well, I can't see, bring the doctor in," and the doctor would have came over and said, "I can't see, I can't continue," and the doctor would have said, "Okay, he can't continue," and Jason Herzog would have waved off the contest and he would have not finished the 3rd round. That is where the rule set states that the majority of the fight has to be completed as far as rounds go and in the books for a foul to cause the outcome to be the judges deciding and the judges going to their scorecards at that point, right? If it's a 5-round fight and they only completed 2 rounds, right? That's not the majority of the fight. That's less than half of the fight. But as soon as they made it to that 4th round, as soon as they made it through and past that 3rd round of that fight, if any infraction happened at that point and the fight had to be stopped, it was going to the judges. That's the rule. That's the rule. All right? Henry Cejudo clearly didn't know that. If he had have known that, would he have made a different decision? Now, you could see him there, veteran move, the gamesmanship of sitting there, taking the full 5 minutes, using it as an opportunity to kind of regain his breath, regain his composure a little bit. Song Yadong was starting to kind of pull ahead a little bit. And you could see Henry Cejudo starting to kind of wane a little bit, in that 3rd round. And so he definitely used it as an opportunity to take a break, which, dude, nobody knows. And there's going to be people to hate on Henry, and there's going to be people to say, "Oh, he could have kept fighting. It was just a little eye poke, whatever." But the people that say that have never been poked in the eye either. And I'm telling you now, my freaking toddler poked me in the eye one time so bad that I had to end up going to the doctor, and the doctor had to put one of those like clear, it almost looked like a contact lens, but it was like a Band-Aid for your eyeball. My eye was red and inflamed, and I could barely, every time I blinked my eye for a good solid 4 or 5 days, it was just excruciating. Plus, it's really hard to heal because you're constantly blinking, and that's a natural involuntary reflex, so you can't keep yourself from blinking. It's just, and then the eyelid is constantly going over top of that cut. It's a really like nagging sort of injury. That was my toddler. I got down on his level, and he came out with his hand at the same time that I was going in. This next thing you know, I'm like, ah, ah. It was actually my left eye. I was like, ah. Now imagine in a fight setting, a full-grown man, Song Yadong, and you can see it on the replay. It went knuckle deep, bro. Maybe not to the 2nd knuckle, but at least to the 1st knuckle deep in his left eye. You can clearly see it. So it was a pretty nasty eye poke. So I get where Henry's pissed off. Now listen, he was losing the fight. Would anything have changed if that eye poke would have never happened? We'll never know. Probably not. I picked Song Yadong to win the fight. He's younger, he's faster, probably stronger, and he may even be a little bit more skilled and technical on the feet. Let's be honest. Plus, he's 5'8". Henry Cejudo's 5'4". Cejudo was clearly having trouble with the reach of Song Yadong that whole fight. But, he's a former champion. He's shown to be, ingenuitive. Is that Henry Cejudo is shown to be creative in there, and still, despite being the shorter fighter, be able to, he's a good fighter. He's a smart fighter, very knowledgeable, experienced, skilled fighter. Is Henry Cejudo still at 38 years old? And despite being 38 years old and sitting out for 3 years in retirement, and the sport goes in waves. Every 5 to 10 years, the fighters just get better and better and better and better, right? And Henry Cejudo was the man back in 2015 and 16, bro. It's now 2025, and he's 38 years old. So considering that next wave of competition, that new and improved competition has come in, and he's still in there competing with those guys at 38 years old after being retired for 3 years and still looking decent with top competition. You got to give Henry credit for that. That shows what kind of athlete he is. It shows that he's still got it, bro. And I think he can still beat a lot of these top guys. And there were moments where he was looking very decent in that fight. There was moments where, with a couple of jabs and right straights, and he was landing some good leg kicks on Song, and Song Yadong was landing them back. Don't get me wrong, but it was. I can understand why Henry Cejudo is pissed about this. I will say I would like to see a rematch. Now, I don't think it necessarily will go any differently. I think Song Yadong is able to thwart the takedown and thwart the ground attack of Henry Cejudo. And I thought he would be able to, and he did, despite the Olympic wrestling pedigree of Henry. But, and if Henry can't take him down, he's stuck on his feet with a guy that I think is just better, younger, taller, faster, maybe a little stronger, more technical, more skilled, all of the above. So I think the fact that Henry was doing as well as he was is really a testament to that championship mindset that he has. But now, because of the gloves and because of the UFC not being able to wrangle in and get a handle on this whole finger in the eye thing, here we go. Now we've got, after the fact, Henry Cejudo making excuses. I didn't lose that fight. He didn't win. I didn't lose. This should be a rematch. It's like, we just wanted to see a full 5 rounds of a main event where something like this didn't happen, and then we could come away with a clear, concise winner so that we know how to move forward in that bantamweight division. That's all we wanted. That's all we wanted, okay? And we didn't get that. We didn't get that. And it's unfortunate because I don't know what the answer is. But I do know that it's hurting the sport. It's a big problem. It's a big dark spot on the sport of MMA, on the UFC, that they've not been able to get control of, that they've not found a solution for yet. They've not found a fix. And that's frustrating because it's not only the fighters, but it's the fans that are getting shit on every time that something like this happens. Imagine being in attendance there last night. You see all that shit going on. Good fight. It was starting to get fun. Song Yadong was kind of Cejudo was having his moments. And then, of course, all the Americans pull up for Cejudo. Or, he's having his moments. And then Song kind of started taking over. So then everybody that was wanting Song to win and all the, Chinese population there were like, Song. And then then the eye poke happens. And then everything stops. And then everybody in the crowd's like on pins and needles, like, what's happening? What's going on? Why is it taking so long? What's Jason Herzog saying right now? What's he saying to Henry Cejudo? What's Henry Cejudo saying to him? What's the coaches saying? What's the doctor saying to Jason Herzog? What's Jason Herzog saying to the judges and to the doctor? Nobody knew anything that was going on. And then all of a sudden they're bringing him out like it's the end of the fight to read the scorecards. And people are just like, I paid $5,000 for these tickets. What the fuck is happening? I paid $5,000 for these tickets. $2,000 for my hotel. $4,000 for my flights. Like, what the fuck's going on right now? You're telling me this fight's over already? And what's more, you're telling me my guy lost when he's the one that got poked in the eyeball? Like, what? Imagine it, bro. Imagine being there. You'd be pissed. I mean, I was pissed just sitting on my couch watching it. And I was like, what? Because I'm American. Like, I like Song Yadong. I think he's awesome. But I tend to pull for the American, just because I'm American. I pull for the home team guy. I'm kind of a homer in that way. And I was like, what? You feel so slighted, man. It's so shit on and like almost taken advantage of, or like cheated, I guess is the best word. And, Song Yadong, it was an accident. He didn't want to win that way. And he's, obviously kudos to him for, saying right there on the microphone, yes, I think we should run that back. I didn't want it to win that way. My apologies to Henry and the fans and blah, blah. He understood what that meant. And you could tell he was upset with himself for being the cause of that, right? But I don't know, man. In some ways, I'm a little bit pissed at Henry for crying about it the way he is. Like, come on, bro. But it's his career. He's a former champion. He's coming back, and he's trying desperately to get a win. He was trying desperately to get a win in that fight. Wasn't going his way at that point. I mean, he wasn't getting, completely manhandled, but he was getting beat. I won't even say handily, because Cejudo was having his moments, and he was having some decent moments, but he was getting beat. So I can't be too mad at him. It's his career, bro. He's the one that's put in the work. He's the one that's the former champion trying to claw his way back up, and then he ends up losing and getting another L, a third straight L on his record because a guy fouled him. Whether you're losing or not, up to that point, you always have to say, well, damn, there was 2 rounds left, though. Anything could have happened. Henry Cejudo's knocked guys out before. He's got decent power. It could have happened, or Song Yadong could have knocked him out, and then it would have went the other way. But either way, we would have had a clear-cut winner. This way, it's not clear-cut. And people lost money, and people lost, I think, faith in the organization. They got to handle this, bro. They got to figure out a way to do something about this, And the guy that Austin Van I'm going to end with this. The guy that Austin Vanderford fought, it pisses me off that Dana is not doing something to that guy, that guy's not being punished somehow. That was a punk-ass move. You were getting your ass beat, laying there in the closed guard for 90% of that fight. I'm not going to say he's letting Austin Vanderford, because obviously he just didn't know what to do. But you're getting your ass handed to you, laying there in closed guard, not trying to get up, not trying to do anything. That whole fight, you're getting your ass beat. You know the rules of the game. You're an MMA fighter. The ref is standing over you. You're getting hit in the face repeatedly, over and over and over. There's the ref. He's right there. Do something. I'm going to stop the fight. Improve your position. Stop taking these unanswered shots, or I'm going to... And then all of a sudden he stops it. Whoa! Why'd you stop it? I had him just where I wanted him. And then because Austin Vanderford is celebrating his first win in the UFC, he goes over and pushes Austin Vanderford. I mean, listen, I'm not like some fan of Austin, Van Zant or whatever. I mean, I'm not some fan of Mr. Van Zant. It's just, that's fucked up, bro. That's poor sportsmanship. Like, that goes in alignment with the whole eye poke thing. There's no consequence. There's no consequence for the eye poke other than you're getting reprimanded in front of the world, in front of the arena. There's no consequence for going and pushing a guy for celebrating his own win when you clearly lost the fight, right? You're just laying there being a punching bag for some dude, and then and knowing the ref 99% of the time stops it when that happens. You want him to do something different for you and just let you just lay there and be a punching bag for 3 rounds. So he stops it, and then you get pissed at Austin Vanderford for celebrating his first win in the UFC. Dude, that guy should have gotten a fine. Listen, we don't affect people's free speech. I'm with you on that, Dana. Freaking Sean Strickland should be able to rant all he wants to on the microphone and not receive some sort of penalty, right? If Bryce Mitchell wants to sit and suck off Hitler for 30 minutes on a podcast, fine. That comes down to freedom of speech. That doesn't have anything to do with in-cage UFC fighting, right? But when a guy inside the octagon does something like what that guy did to Austin Vanderford last night, fuck that. He either needs to get fined, penalized, or don't come back. Go to another organization. One of the two. I'm not saying you should necessarily kick him out. Emotions were high. I mean, adrenaline's pumping. Fine. You don't have to kick him out, but something, some sort of consequence, and I think Dana is so used to just being this guy and this CEO that's just like, oh, we don't tell guys what, freedom of speech, freedom to do it. Yeah, but it's not freedom to do whatever the fuck you want, though. No. That's poor sportsmanship, bro. I mean, you're playing a basketball game and one team loses and the team that lost walks over, instead of shaking the hands of the team that wins, they start pushing them and trying to fight them. Like, I mean, what? Because this is fighting is different? Because this is fighting, it's okay to push somebody because they're celebrating because they clearly beat you? It's like, I'm not following, dude. Like Dana, I get it. Freedom of speech, fine. But you don't just let fighters do whatever the hell they want in the octagon, right? You gotta set some ground limits, some ground rules to that. You got to, man. And I lost a little bit of respect for Dana White and the UFC throughout this process. I thought the dude that pushed Austin Vanderford, I thought he should have received some sort of punishment. I thought that Song Yadong should have got a point taken, right? I mean, they need to do something about the gloves so these fights stop ending prematurely due to eye pokes. I mean, I don't know, man. The whole just hands-off approach, just let the cards fall where they may, no matter how fucked up things look when it happens. You got to stop that, dude. You got to stop that. This is your sport. This is your organization. You have a monopoly on the sport of MMA. In my opinion, you have a responsibility and a duty to clean up some of this shit, right? And if it's something that he's passionate about and he wants to do it, Dana's all fucking about it. He's all up it. He's shown that if he wants to be the one to come and start putting fights on again when COVID happens, he can do it. If you can fucking do that, you can figure out a way to keep these fights from fucking stopping early and cheating the fans out of rounds and rounds and rounds of action that they've paid for. And cheating the fighters and their careers. Right? And you can also figure out a way to protect fighters from getting pushed or attacked by other fighters when the fight is not in session. You have a responsibility to do that. And I think it reflects bad on Dana, if I'm being honest with you. Anyway, what do you guys think? Subscribe to the channel if you would. Like the video, comment down below. I will see you guys on the next one. I'm going to stop rambling at this point. Thanks so much for watching. Peace.